for February 1st. Committee members are Lisa Glidden, Sean Onmek, and Pamela Dowd. And turn it over to Nancy.
So we have two reports that were provided by Mengel, Metzger, and Barr. The first was our single audit report. This report audits all of our federal programs, and it identifies the major federal programs that were audited. This year, it was the CARES Act ESSER and the CARES Act GEAR. Also, they looked at the Child Nutrition Program. And I'm happy to announce that we had no findings this year again for any of our federal programs. The second report is the extra classroom activity funds report. I can't say the same about this report because they will always find something in the extra classroom account. But I am happy to say that they did have only one finding, and the one finding is for profit and loss reports not being filed, and as well as the classroom treasurer not signing off on the profit and loss statements. And the same thing happened as in last year. Due to COVID, they weren't meeting as much, so these things weren't getting done. But we have put in corrective measures in order to ask for the profit and loss statements, to review them before audit time to make sure that if they're not in compliance, we can send them back. And we are also accepting an email signature from the student's account if they're not present in order to physically sign the form. So we have put those corrective measures in place, and that finding should come off next year. So those are the two audit reports that we have. I do want to say that we have also an internal audit report from Bonadeo. They do our annual risk assessment, and they have a draft report that they would like to share with the audit committee. It wasn't ready for this report, so I will need to schedule another committee meeting for Bonadeo to come in and present that.
Active clubs, because COVID is such a strange situation, I would suggest maybe not closing all these due to inactivity.
We usually, Sean, we usually don't close anything unless the board asks us
Okay.
to close it.
Because some of these were big, at least eons ago when I went here, like Buck Bulletin and Ski Club and stuff, so.
Right,
And with COVID, and maybe some of them didn't happen because of that.
that's a very good point.
Any questions or concerns from anybody else from the board? Good. You know, for the most part, pretty clean audit. The big thing is making sure that the student clubs review those sheets, those profit and loss sheets, and then also that they sign off. And that we'll be definitely working with the principals and the students on making sure that they do that. But other than that, we're pretty good.
Well, as long as we put into play, you know, the acceptance of an email signature, I think that would help with the students signing off, especially in the crazy COVID that we went through too. And in the profit and loss statement, is that something new that's been required in the last few years? No, it's just sometimes in the change of obviously the students and then advisors, it got lost in the shuffle is all then. I think that I find them both rather minor little notations with the explanations for them, so I find no problem at all with these.
Good? All set, Lisa? Yep. Okay. Well, that's all we had for you all today. That was a quick one. So we'll be back soon with our next group of auditors that will be coming in from external, okay? All right. You all set, Nancy? Okay. All right. Very good. Okay.
To order of February 1st, 2022, Tom Chapa.
Here?
Heather Del Conte. Here. Pamela Dowd.
Here.
Lisa Glidden. Here. James McKenzie. Sean Onmek. Linda Sereno. Here. Zachary Demott. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and then a moment of silence for two retired employees, Ann Moody and Joyce Cooper. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the floor to the public. We have no one signed up tonight for the floor to the public. Next is the Board of Education policies, first reading of the policies listed on the resolution. They were brought to the Board of Education Policy Committee on January 18th, 2022, and were approved to come to this meeting for the first reading. If I could have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the superintendent's report with Dr. Kelvin.
Good evening, Board. Great to see everybody back today, and we're going to jump right into our presentation for this evening. So first, tonight, I'd like to start out by congratulating one of our students, Clara Bucklow, from Charles E. Riley. She is a fifth grader. Very proud of Clara. There were 20 Central New York students who won the right to compete in the final oral round of the post-standard Syracuse Spelling Bee. The students won their school spelling bee and completed in the regional, competed in the regional round to qualify for local final round. And they now will compete at 10:15 on March 5th in the Everson Museum. The oral round will be recorded and shown on Syracuse.com on April 1st. So we are just very proud of Clara and wish her well as she goes out to compete in the spelling bee. Very, very good job. Congratulations. So just shifting gears a little bit here. So we have been working, like all school districts, around the most recent information that has come to us. There was recently, as most of you are aware, a court case that took place up in the Long Island area, Nassau County, and there was some, concern across the whole state as a result of the case. There was concerns about whether or not we would continue with masking in schools. Since the case actually took place, there was some briefs that were filed with the appellate court, and not only were those briefs filed with the court, but there was a ruling yesterday that basically said from a 3-panel appellate group that the state would have until March 2nd to be able to put in more information, and until then, basically everything is going to stay status quo. In addition to that, the New York State Education Commissioner shared this detailed letter with superintendents back on January 28th, basically saying that the mask rule must remain in effect. So we just kind of wanted to share what's happening right now. We're all kind of in a holding pattern at this point in time, and as we learn more information, we'll share it with our public and just share it out with the board as well. And we have sent a note out to the public when this whole thing first came out, just to let them know what we know. It's been widely reported in the news, and so I think everybody across the whole state is watching this, okay? And just to be clear, we had some questions about the authority of the commissioner and also the authority of the education department. So we did get some feedback. I did reach out to folks from state ed just to make sure we were clear. So, the New York State Department of Education is charged with the general management and supervision of all public schools and all of the education of the state, from pre-K to graduate school, and they're responsible for setting educational policy, standards, and rules. They are the overarching governing entity that tells schools basically what they must and must not do. With respect to the commissioner, She has been given a series of powers which do include enforcement of laws relating to the educational system, execution of educational policies determined by the Board of Regents, issuance of regulations, general supervision of all schools and institutions subject to the provisions of the educational law. So there was some questions from folks about, well, does the commissioner really have power over schools? Does the Board of Regents, are they really in charge? And can they say what happens and what doesn't happen in schools? Yes, they can. Yes, they do. They do have that power. They do have that authority. So, I know there's concerns from some around masking, but we have to do what the Ed Department tells us to do. And they have a whole slew of lawyers who are working on this, who are watching this. And if things change, then certainly we would be, ready to do whatever we need to do. But I just want to let folks know, just in terms of the overarching who has what powers, what duties, the commissioner and the Board of Regents do have the power to say to schools, you must do this and you must do that, basically. They're also letting us know that they are working in partnership consistently with the New York State Department of Health on these matters around masking as well. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, okay? We also had some community questions recently that we wanted to make sure that we answered. Some questions came into our office, and we just wanted to kind of just go through a couple of these questions and just let folks know. Recently, we had to actually shut down some of our schools. As you all are aware, probably about a month or so ago, we had a couple of days we had to shut down. And really, it was due to a number of things. First of all, our operational need. We had a high number of staff that were out from our district due to COVID-19 concerns. Difficult time being able to cover teachers, support staff, bus drivers, cleaners, you name it. We had a lot of people that were out. On any given day, we could have anywhere, Heidi, please correct me, anywhere from 50 to 98 teachers or more. And then just, quite a few other departments. A lot of this was around COVID-19. As you know, in our county, we had sometimes, up to a 30% infection rate. And that really did come home to the schools. We felt it quite a bit as we were kind of working through the surge. We had, the ability to staff was really a concern. We couldn't get substitutes for any of those departments. There are shortages, not just here, but really across the entire county and really across the whole state. And then we had the really higher levels of COVID-19. So just for an example, the last 4 weeks have been very busy. 3 weeks prior to where we're at today, so throughout this year we have had over 770 cases. 432 of those cases happened within a 3-week period. There was just an enormous amount, and those are the student cases. We've had over 178 cases with staff throughout the year. So things have just, we have definitely felt the surge. So when we were seeing 432 cases in like a 3-week period, plus we have operational concerns and staffing concerns, those are all the things that led us to why we had to transition temporarily to remote. I'm glad to say we've been back in person. Folks have been really working really hard to keep everybody safe, and I see people really doing everything they can. I think our staff, our folks, they want to see kids in person, but unfortunately we had to temporarily transition to remote because of that. So it really wasn't one thing, it's a number of things, okay? And we have looked at not only our data, but we look at the county data, we look at student data, and I'll take you in just a moment to our site to look at some of that data where people can find it. We had a question about spectators at events. So if you'll go back to some of our board meetings in December and also in January, I did share with the board that we were going to have to be enacting temporarily some reductions in some of our spectator events. Really, the goal was to ensure the health and safety of our students and our staff. We want to try to make sure that we keep kids in school. And we want to be careful about spreading in terms of schools. There was some guidance that came out also from the state ed that said, hey, listen, be careful when you're having these events, and the indoor events particularly, that we wanted to try to really pay close attention to. We shared information at the December 10th board meeting, and then we shared it again at January 6th, just prior to that board meeting. And we put it in writing. If you go to our website, I'll show you, we can find all the letters, all that information was there. It wasn't something that was brand new that came up recently. We've been sharing that as we kind of moved along, basically. Again, higher levels of COVID-19, concerns around the city. Our city has been in a state of emergency. Also concerns, you know, around the spread of the virus at some of these events we were concerned about, and then guidance again for indoor athletics. High-risk sports said, hey, you need to be careful when you kind of bring people together. So it was a number of things that led to those temporary reductions with Spectators. You know, we do have a dashboard, and people can go to our site, and I'll show you in just a little bit how you get onto the site. And this site every day reports what the number of cases look like. It shows you how many students basically have tested positive, how many staff folks have tested positive, which school building that they're in, and then it tells you where things are, where they started since September 1, in terms of quarantines, positives, and cases that are still pending. Those cases that are pending are things that we're working on still, trying to call folks and you know, work through health departments or with families to figure out where people actually are. So that information is on our website. People can go there and watch that every day. And again, as I shared, when you look at the data, you know, 771 folks in September 1, that was as of January 31st. 733 positive cases since September 1st. Over 430 that were within that last 30-day period. We had 53 staff and teachers quarantine cases only on that date of January 31st. 167 staff and teachers positive COVID cases. So a lot happening in the district. You know, I share with a lot of parents over the phone, we want to be able to offer all things to all people as much as we can. But sometimes when we have challenging times, we have to take a temporary pause, right? Make sure things are better, and then we restart one step at a time. And that's kind of what led us to that. So I just wanted to share that information out with the public in case people had questions. Yes?
When you're looking at this and it says quarantined and then you have positive cases, I'm assuming some of the quarantined became positive,
Yes.
but you're not listing positive cases as being quarantined. Is that correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So some of your quarantine cases probably became positive, but you're not listing positive cases as being quarantined because naturally you would be home quarantined if you were positive.
Yeah, so some of our people who got quarantined, they weren't a positive case, but they were exposed to somebody else. So they may not be included in the positive numbers. Does that make sense? They may have a quarantine, they may have a symptom, an issue, like, you know, they may have a runny nose or they may have a headache, one of those symptoms that are COVID-19 related. So they may be quarantined, but they may not, doesn't mean that they're a positive case. Does that make sense?
I mean, yes, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Is your question, I think, is your question, are there really, what is it, like 1,504 students who've been impacted?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or is it, you know what I mean?
Right, there's
see.
got to be overlap between the two.
There is
and-
overlap,
yeah.
yes. In many of these cases, there are overlap,
Okay.
yes.
I got that math.
Many of the people who were positive also were quarantined. So yes, there is some overlap. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I understand. Yes. Okay. All right. We also had some additional questions, and Tom is here tonight with us, and so certainly he can help us out. Tom Gunn is our Director of Transportation. And Tom, if you want to kind of come to the microphone, certainly you can help us out with some of these things. So just want to kind of run through a couple questions. There were questions that we received around bus drivers. You know, when the bus drivers are not available, why not have a backup plan in place and that allows parents to drive? So we do, at all times, you know, if parents want to drive their kids during the school day to and from school, they certainly have the option to do that. What we do is we just ask that they contact us and let us know so that the bus is not waiting outside, you know, for that particular child, basically. We ask that parents keep in mind that also, you know, many of our students do not have transportation to and from school. Due to safety concerns, we don't recommend, nor do we approve or encourage that students, especially now, ride with others, right, because of COVID-19. And, you know, we are committed to doing all that we can to provide transportation to all, you know, students whenever possible to and from school every day. But if parents say, you know, listen, I want to get my kid to school and I don't want to wait, you always have the right to do that, basically. Okay? Any concerns on that? Do you feel good with that? Okay, all right. With respect to, next question was, what's the existing transportation backup plan? So we do have a series of plans that we have in place, which we certainly have been very proactive and tried to just make sure that we can cover things whenever we have issues. We've had a number of days where we had to do some things a little different because of COVID-19. So if there's a problem with transportation, like we have a high number of staff that are out, I think one of the days we had like 20-something people who are out. and we were missing like almost a third of our drivers. So when those things happen, we have some backup plans. So the first plan is that the district utilizes other district staff who have CDL licenses or who can assist and help out with the operations. So we have a number of people across the district who have been former drivers. They may be working in a different department, and we reach out to them and say, hey, would you be willing to help us out? Right? And a high number of those folks that we reached out to have been very helpful. Would you say, Tom? Also, even in our office, I think everybody here, except for maybe Karen, has been up to the bus garage, and we've all kind of answered phones, helped out. Nancy's been dispatching, you name it. We all just kind of pitch in to help one another out. We have had other people in, I think, from other departments too. You want to share anything on that, or?
No, we've had staff come together from the Ed Center, from the warehouse, buildings and grounds, and they are all willing to help us, and it's really helped through the hard parts that we were faced with just a few weeks ago. So,
All right. So that's plan number one. Number two, we've had to not only do number one, where we ask people to help us out, but we also have had to do some temporary combining of runs, right? So whenever we see we're short a larger number of buses, there are some runs that we know we can combine to make things a little bit easier. When that happens, we do our best to try to let parents know. We're going to be a couple minutes, then a little bit late, but we try to get the kids on the buses, and combine them. We do have some extra wiggle room on our buses. We have, this year when we got our buses together initially, we put a little extra space. We have more kids on the bus than we've had the last couple of years, basically, but we still put in some extra space here and there because, we're still in COVID-19. We want to give people space. We've tried to make sure that families, are sitting together, people from the same household are together, but yet there's still some extra room. So we can do some combining whenever we need to, and that's backup plan number two. Your thoughts on that, sir?
yeah. So we track the attendance of each bus run daily. So if we come up where we're short, we can look at the data and determine what bus runs could be combined to still give the students as much room as possible on the bus when they're on there.
Okay. So, and then backup plan number three is combine additional runs by increasing numbers on buses, right? So we know there's risk with all things. The more people you have on the bus, the more concerns you have, basically. So what we try really hard to do is be careful and look at the numbers on our buses. But we've been able to actually combine some additional runs by increasing the numbers of kiddos on buses. Anything on that, sir? Okay. Okay. And then our last plan that we have is our staggered routing plan. Now, this one is what we call the nuclear plan, right? This is what we do when all else fails, okay? And what it requires is that we bring middle school and high school in first, and then what we'd have to do is stagger the plan. So a couple elementary schools would start at a certain time, another group will start at another time. Group will end at a certain time, another group ends at another time. Some of the drawbacks with the plan is that the start and end times would have to change for our schools, which might cause some challenges for some of our parents. Also, there are some concerns with athletic runs, right? So that trying to get the second or that first group of athletic runs in can be a little bit challenged because of the way that the staggering happens. It also causes our drivers to just, they're constantly busy, right? They don't have breaks. It causes a lot of, but it is, again, the nuclear plan, right? We only use this plan when we really have to use it. Tom?
We did something similar to this last year.
Yes.
So we altered the bell times, and we can condense the runs that way, utilizing, rather than a two-tier system, it became a three-tier system. So, yeah.
Sure.
Tom, I have a question in regards to our McKinney-Vento runs. Do we have multiple drivers that are doing that, and has that been a problem with the driver shortages?
The numbers are higher this year, and the challenges are there for us. We do have a small handful of people that are working with McKinney-Vento situations, but we're getting the job done, so. Yeah, Tom.
I just had a question, Tom, when you said, like 3 weeks ago, we were at the peak where it was the worst, you were saying, and we're not at 100% now, but where would you say we are in terms of?
We're coming back. I mean, we were seeing, as Dr. Kelvin said, almost a third of the staff was gone, and I believe today that we were under 10, so that, I mean, that's a small celebration at the bus garage, so.
Try a big celebration, actually, Tom.
Do you see that's kind of following along and bookmarking what's happening?
Yeah, we're actually improving even as this week goes along. From Monday to Friday, the numbers are getting even better, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, just an example of not only there, but across the district. So we had days the last couple of weeks where we were having anywhere from 28, I think was the minimum, to 40, 43 people, positive in a day. Today, I went into the hotline area to see how we're doing for today. The number was about, I want to say maybe 15, maybe a little bit less, so just kind of shows you how the numbers have come down, and you can not only feel it, but you can see it. We had at one point 98 teachers, I think, on one day. Today, I think I looked at the list and it was like 44, if I remember correctly. And then we had some coverage. Some areas we still had some concerns with coverage, but it's drastically different right now. I think the community's moving in a good direction. Are there still concerns? Yes, we're still in a pandemic and there's real challenges, but it feels like it's getting better, and I'm knocking on wood, and every day it feels a little bit better than it was at least the last 3 weeks. It was really challenging the last couple weeks. Okay.
I would just like to give a kudos to transportation, Tom, all the people that have stepped up and helped that department, all the aides, the bus drivers that have doubled up runs, overtime. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
The staff has been amazing. The job is in front of them, and you present it to them, and they do it. They're simply amazing.
That's it, shout out and kudos, thank you.
Yeah, I would actually just add to that. I mean, and it sounds like it's a lot of on the fly, having to
Yes.
change,
Yes.
spin on a dime, and that's really amazing that you have that resilience and capacity, and that's really, really impressive.
Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. So I also want to let folks know, we had some questions about, hey, is there backup, does these backup plans apply to sports? Yes, they do. So all of our backup plans do encompass coverage for athletics. Again, we went through a really challenging time. So I think we want folks to understand that, we're doing our very best to cover athletic runs. But as I said, we had over a third of the people who are out. We also want to keep in mind that athletic runs are considered like extra runs. People are offered these runs, they have to bid on them, right? And it's an extra. It's not a requirement that the bus driver does that. We utilize drivers on a rotating schedule, whomever can help us, great. So, it's not a requirement for them. So with that said, sometimes it is a challenge to find people to fill in. Also, we have some folks who are very tired. There's just a lot going on trying to, take care of the kids. And so to ask them to kind of do it extra, we do ask, can you help us? Would you be willing? But sometimes it does become a challenge to find some extra support. Just so folks know, we are constantly doing everything to try to work with and find extra help. We have reached out to school districts. We have reached out to Central Busing. We have reached out to First Student. You name it, we've tried to find help and support. That has come with challenges because they're all stretched. Everybody is. We think we may have found someone who may be interested, so we're tracking everything down that we can. But we're just letting folks know it's been a challenge. We've called quite a few folks to see, can you partner, can you help us? And they all have said, look, we're just as challenged as you are. There is a shortage. So just want to let folks know we continue to be dedicated to finding extra help and assistance, okay? All right. Okay, so I think that's all we got for transportation. Tom, anything else you want to add? Are you good? Okay.
I just want to also thank you, Tom. I know you've made runs yourself and sporting runs and things like that as well. And I think one of the things that has actually helped us is that because this is kind of a universal experience with other districts, there has been a lot of flexibility, with other districts in terms of rescheduling things and just being very fluid through this whole situation. So everyone's patience, students, parents, and of course our transportation department. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Just a couple more questions and we'll be done with this portion. We had another question about, hey, why are you posting for other positions? Like we talked about the assistant business official, director of literacy and math, and we can't even basically secure, bus drivers and subs, basically. So, my response to that is just that the district does have multiple responsibilities, multiple things that we have to attend to all at the same time. We have to be able to juggle different priorities. And so while offering athletics and extracurricular activities, we've also got to make sure that we make good on our promise around our educational programs. And certainly we want to, as you kind of look at our strategic plan and the work we're trying to do, we want to continue to work really hard at increasing reading and mathematics outcomes, especially now when there's been a lot of learning loss. So our feeling is we have a responsibility to try to do as much as we can in a variety of areas. So we're going to continue to work on each of these priorities simultaneously at the same time. Okay? All right, and then will the district be allowing outside groups to use facilities again? My response to that is yes. We did send a letter out to the community, I believe it was yesterday. So I think there was a robocall that went out, or not a robocall, but an email that went out to the public yesterday. So yes, starting next week, Monday, we will allow for our public to come back in. Anyone who has questions can contact Nancy's office. I think they're already taking calls, and we'll take it one step at a time. We have shared with our community. If there are, real huge COVID concerns, we'll certainly kind of go from there, for sure. Any questions before I want to show you one more thing? Everybody good? Okay. Let me just, let's see if this is going to do this for me. Oh, come on, be nice to me. Okay. Does it like me, Matt? Does it? Down at the bottom? And show. Okay, thank you. I just want to let people know. So just to let folks know, we are doing some rearranging of our website. We have a big banner here at the top that you can click on to find information around COVID-19. We had some folks say to us, listen, I'm getting a little confused on the webpage. Can you help me out a little bit? So at the bottom of the page on this side, these are all the updates around COVID-19. People can find them all on one side, right? All the stories, all the letters. And then also here, this is just regular district news, any things that are happening, exciting things happening in the district. Your calendar's here. But if you don't want to go through all those here, what you can do is go back up to the site and click right on that little button there. And here you'll find COVID-19 information, okay? Our reopening page, our reopening information is all over here. Underneath, all the letters and communications that we've put out are there. If you go here, you can go and find, if it wants to turn, those updates by day, with the data that's going on, basically. Oh, be nice to me, please. And then there are links here from CDC, the New York State Department of Health, and all of the guidance documents that's coming to us every day from New York State. And we'll probably put another link to separate some of that more out, but you can go on and you can find all the guidance right from the health department. So you can see exactly what's there, any questions, any concerns, you can go right there. And we have I think there's some graphics, documents there to show you if, what, then, right? So that parents kind of know. And also our information is there for the hotline so that if you have any questions, you can call us at the hotline and we can walk you through anything that you have. But our goal is just to help simplify some of the information and help parents and folks to be able to find stuff, particularly around COVID-19, okay? I just want to let folks know. All right, so that's what I have with respect to that. Let's see if I can go back. Okay, Matt. All right, now it has. All right, any questions on that information at all, board? Or those questions or answers? Everybody good? Okay, so Nancy and I are now going to shift gears and talk a little bit about our budget, particularly the program portion of the budget this evening. So we have kind of put together a draft. And certainly this truly is a draft, it's work and art. So if there's any questions or concerns or revisions we want to consider, certainly we have the opportunity to do that. But before we start that, I just want to give you some updates from the state department, education department, and also from the governor. So the governor's budget recently came out a little bit earlier, which is great. And she included a minimum foundation aid increase of 3% across the board for districts. She, recently made a commitment to increasing the foundation aid and trying to really make sure we catch up and get everybody restored where they needed to be at with respect to foundation aid. Governor Hochul also proposed to fully fund expense-based aids and to give the state education department authority to forgive building and transportation penalties when they are the result of inadvertent clerical errors. There's some districts across the state who made errors and they lost millions of dollars. And she's saying, listen, we're we'll forgive these districts and not, hold people harmful for these things, basically. We're going to hold them harmless. The state aid also, numbers projected an increase for districts because of those foundation aid changes. For Oswego, we kind of, right now, if this holds steady, we've kind of looked out pretty good. We saw about a 19.79 increase for our district, which is over 7.4 million for the district in terms of increased aid. So, not only the aid we got last year, but extra. So that's great. They're trying to really fully fund the foundation aid, and that's a big step for us. Okay, for foundation aid increases, it's 5.9 million plus, which is a 26.05% there. So, with those categories of different aid plus the foundation aid, we should see some changes there, which is good. Right now, and again, this is her preliminary budget. Stuff hasn't gone to the legislature, so things could change, but this is what she's projecting. We also heard that the early college, high school, and pathways and technology P-TECH programs, remember how we talked about there were some concerns around funding with that? Well, the new executive budget does put in some P-TECH grants. Depending on when your program started or began, they're going to add some extra grants there. So that's a good thing across the state as well that will help with some of those costs that we were concerned about.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So is that specifically for P-TECH, or can it also be applied to other early college programming that we provide, like New Visions, et cetera?
It's for early college, high schools, and pathways and technology. So it's a combination of the two.
So then is there maybe the projection that we may be able to offer that to more students?
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. We hope that's what will happen. Right now, the biggest, I think, priority was to get it funded. There was concerns like every year there was a drop-off that we would start to have to hold on to. And the concern was, would they fund it for a number of years versus just 1 year? So I think they're working towards trying to fund it for a number of years first. And then if we can get a little extra, that'd be great too. That way you can offer it to a couple more kiddos who might like to do that. So it's early yet, but that's our hope. So we'll be watching this closely to see what does that look like for us. Certainly if we can offer more opportunities, we'd like to do that for kids. Okay. So with respect to our budget, now taking that new information in, we wanted to really work with respect to our goals. Our first goal is to make sure that we have a budget that's fiscally sound, not excessive to the taxpayers, that it's flexible and provides for flexibilities within the budget codes. It's foolproof, providing for emergencies should they occur. It's flowing in that it has enough cash flow available in case state aid is withheld or there's some real big challenge. And then that it's aligned, that our budget will be aligned to the district's strategic plan and considers long-term perspective. And so with that said, we'll get into our program budget now. And in terms of salaries, equipment, contractual, BOCE, supplies, benefits, as you can see here, the biggest pieces that we see increases are particularly with salaries, with benefits, and then there's some BOCES costs that have increased. So we'll kind of move into that now. Okay, Nancy, on to you.
As you can see, our salaries have increased 1.1 million. Our equipment is up 116,500. Contractual is up $83,850. Our BOCES budget is up significantly at $925,398. Supplies are up $42,910. And our benefits are up $378,327. Following in the rest of the slides is a line by line where I can tell you where the increases or decreases are. So our 21-22 budget was $70,630,762. The projected preliminary budget is $73,332,053. So there's an increase in our program budget of $2.7 million. And the program budget, if you recall, is the largest piece of our budget. So the first function is teaching regular school, and this is up $1.1 million. The majority of this increase results in salary increases of a projected 3.25% for next year. And this is not only salary, this includes the contractual, it includes equipment, supplies, everything under this one functional unit. So there was also an increase in contractual expenditures of $192,000. There is increases in BOCE services and supplies of $55,000. And we are still experiencing some supply chain issues. Paper has doubled for next year, and that is even through the BOCES bid. So we would normally budget $55,000, we're budgeting 110 plus just for paper for next year. Teaching incarcerated youth, we've budgeted flat. Art, even though it looks like there's a reduction of $4,797, as we said, this is a preliminary budget. That is a team leader that has been, was in another account, has been corrected since this has been run. So that is no longer a deficit. English, minimal increase, $24. Language, minimal increase of $11. Physical education, a decrease of $730. And that is because there were supplies for one of our elementary schools which were doubled up in the budget, which were reallocated in the current year. Home and career skills remains flat. Technology education remains flat. Mathematics has a small increase. Music has a $2,184 reduction. As I look through all of the budget lines, line by line, there were some part-time professionals that were budgeted in music. That budget seemed to be too high over the 5-year variance, so that has been reduced slightly. Science has increased $4,446, but as you can see, it's similar to the team leader that would have been moved to another functional code. TV communication systems is flat. Social studies has a small increase. Reading is increased by $96,895. That is due to salary changes and the addition of some lower salaries that were replaced by other people when they're pulled in and out of the federal grants. So we supplement some of these account codes with our federal programs, and it all depends on who we pull in that year. Theater has a increase of $10,550. That was mainly for some equipment, additional equipment. The weight room is flat. That is for the summer services for the weight room. Textbooks are flat. Textbooks, and I still have to look at that line. I did not receive yet the breakdown of our state aid line by line. So basically it's broken out by textbook software, and those are allocated out to the schools based on enrollment purposes. I don't have that defined, so I left it at last year's numbers. Programs with students with disabilities is a small decrease. That line where I have highlighted, we're going to look at that one again. We have to do and maintain our effort with our special education programs. That means we have to maintain what we spent last year. It's called maintenance of effort. And if that goes down, then it shows the state that we're not maintaining our effort for the number of students that we currently have. If your enrollment goes down, that's a reason for your cost to go down, but our enrollment doesn't seem to be going down. So we have to look at that account again. Speech language services is up $32,000. This was not in the current year budget, so we had to put it in next year's budget. As I spoke with the director of special education, there was some need for some additional speech. 2280 occupational ed is up, and this is for our CTE program. Just so that the board understands, we are billed for last year's CTE seats. So right now I know that we have 140 CTE seats with the district, and that includes New Visions, sorry. So I have to at least budget for 140 slots for next year just to pay for what we've already used. We also have 8 seats in there for all-day CTE as well. Teaching special schools, this is decreased $155,000. That is because the summer school expenditures, we have taken those and they are going to be paid under our federal ARP grant. School, library, and audiovisual is up $102,778, and that is salary increases, increases in technology equipment. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. That is because the COSR for the library has gone up. 2630 computer-assisted instruction is up $744,600. That is due to salary increases, the $100,000 in technology equipment, and $600,000 increase in a BOCES COSR, which is COSR 515. It's where our Director of Technology does all of his projects, where he can buy the smart boards, computers, whatever he has to in order to maintain our inventory. 2810, guidance regular school, is up $89,336, contractual increases. 2815, health services regular school is up $100,000. This is up because of the salary increases, and we also have COVID contact tracing expenditures in there that we didn't have previously. 2820, psychological services regular school is up $23,729. That's due to salary increases. Social work services regular school, there's a decrease of $58,092. That is because 0.75 of a position is now being paid out of federal. Interscholastic athletics regular school, there is a decrease of $39,564, and that is because there was a decrease in the coaching schedules that were provided by athletics. District transportation is up $56,519. We have our regular expenditures in transportation. We've also built some vacancies into the budget that didn't carry over in our negotiation module, which does all of our salary projections. So I had to build in some vacancies for Tom for positions that have not been filled yet. Athletic trips are flat at $150,000. Summer school, $20,450. This is another one that I would have to check to see whether we can pull that out, whether this is also covered under our ARP grant.
Nancy, can I ask a question here?
Sure.
The athletic trips, what is, first of all, do we use that? And what
Yes.
is it used for? And does it include the music trips too?
Yes. So what that is for is when there is an athletic trip, those miles are not aidable.
You're talking just an interscholastic trip?
Yes.
Like just going down to,
Going down to
Fulton.
Portland,
Okay.
going to Fulton. So those are not aidable miles according to New York State Ed. And so we have to keep them separate. And then there are, those trips are provided from the transportation department to my department, and then journal entries are done so that we can take it out of the transportation budget and then move it to this interscholastic athletic account.
Is this mostly mileage then? It's not also the cost of the bus driver?
Both.
It's both. Okay. Thank you.
You're talking about summer school?
Oh, yep, summer school, this is the one I have to check on to make sure it's not covered under ARP. Art department trips is flat, music trips is a decrease of $4,000. They're not traveling as, well, they weren't traveling because of COVID, but even compared to previous years, they weren't, the students weren't traveling as much. The transportation garage is up $11,694. That's due to an increase in salaries and also an increase for their equipment repair account. Contact transportation is flat. State retirement is for our CSEA, state retirement employees, and this is down $141,061. That is because the rate has decreased, the projected rate, and it was 18%. It is now 12.9% preliminary. Teachers' retirement has increased $390,000. Their rate has increased slightly. And then there's Social Security, workers' comp, life insurance, unemployment. I have reduced that to our normal cost. If you remember last year, I had increased that significantly because we were not sure whether we were going to get billed because of everything that happened during COVID. But so far, I haven't seen that we've been receiving a lot increase in our billing. So I have decreased that back down to $75,000. Disability insurance is increased by $10,000, and that's due to experience. Our hospital and medical insurance is up by $105,000. That includes our Medicare reimbursement premiums to our retirees, and that premium is going to increase from $148.50 per month to $170.10 per month. So it's going up $22 per person per month. Dental insurance, I have flat. Our EAP and insurance reimbursement is flat, and we have a transfer to our special aid fund of $150, which is also flat, which has our grand total for our program component of $73,332,053.
I'm sorry. So again, program budget, you can see the increase is about 2.7 million. The real increases, takeaways are salaries, BOCES, and benefits. That's where the biggest amounts are. Okay. Questions from the board? Any other questions at all? And again, I'm sorry it took us a little while, but we just wanted to give you line by line all the information so you could see it. And our goal is to, we're in the draft stages, so our goal is to keep coming back and continue to talk this through. Any other questions?
I just had one thought as we think about P-TECH and New Visions and those kinds of, get a leg forward with college kind of programs. And I'm just wondering if we might be able to do an analysis of what it might cost us to fund or help subsidize the AP exams and like the cost for SUPA and those kind of also college programs that we offer, because, they have the same effect, but they can be very costly for families. I mean, the SUPA program, I think, is like $600. It's really quite expensive for some families, and where it's cheaper, people could argue, than like matriculating in college, it still is, could be, prohibitive. So I'm just wondering if we might be able to do some kind of analysis as to how many, kids are actually in those programs and would benefit from that kind of an advantage.
Sure.
Sorry about this. Yes, we can do an analysis. We'll get together with Ryan and our guidance counselors, see how many kiddos are in those programs, and then what the costs are, and we can bring that back. You want to say something?
Yep, I was just going to say a lot of our college programs do also provide financial aid.
do.
So if the financial payment, it is expensive, you know, really across the board for kids, cheaper than matriculating, but still $600 just for the super econ is an expensive burden for some families. And the AP test is also, can be supplemented, but I had talked to Pat Wallace before about looking at those numbers, and I'll bring it up to Ryan too, that how many kids are not joining and then maybe following up with those kids, because you don't have to apply for the tuition credits, but why aren't they applying for them would be a good good data point to know.
So yes, we can do an analysis on it. We will get that done for you.
I mean, even not if it's only a financial burden, like I wish someone would have explained to me when my high school was like, oh, you should take the AP Spanish test and it costs however much. And I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying that. Not realizing how much a credit costs in college. Like it was just that connection I didn't make, you know? So.
Well, and I'm also thinking just in terms of like equity, if we can provide that subsidy for, you know, everybody, that would be fantastic, and then we don't have to differentiate between those who can afford and those who cannot. It'd just be something that, you know, I guess, because my understanding is no one has to pay for like a New Visions program or a P-TECH program out of pocket, correct? So I guess just in terms of, you know, fairness between programs, if we could just look into how much that might cost a district, I think that'd be a benefit.
Sure, we can, well, yes, we can get the analysis done for the board. Sure we can. Okay. All right, if there's nothing more, thank you, Nancy, board. We're all good? I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, items A through G. If I could have a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I need to make a motion to table the treasurer's consolidated reports from September to December. Just that piece.
Okay, so, Tom? No, it's just, do we have to remove the other? Yeah, I think you're,
Can I say
Or-
something?
yeah.
I understand why you wanted to table that, but they have been corrected, Pam, and the corrected ones have been put back up on the website.
But if you still want
I
more
still
time
need
to
to
look
table
over
it.
it,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
I need to go over a little
So the amendment
more.
would be
Yeah, I didn't have enough time.
approve everything, but with the removal of that particular report, and then we'll vote on that report separately, or you're going to table it, right? So we don't have to. We'll have
I
to
would
vote
like-
on that.
Yeah, how do we, I know, Jim's not here.
I know, right?
So she's moving the table.
So,
Like you need to vote on that.
in the absence of, I think the quickest thing might be Pam can move to amend the original motion to remove item, whatever this
Yes,
was.
I think that's the best.
So I'd like to move to amend the motion to remove item G to table that item.
Well-
Because we do want it coming back to
Two
us.
separate-
Yeah, that's two
It's
separate
two
things.
separate things.
So
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
you want to
I was
remove
trying
G
So I
from
need
it.
to remove G from the motion.
So any discussion on removing G?
Well, we need a second
Oh,
for
right.
her motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, now, is there discussion on the motion to amend?
I just need to go over those reports more. I didn't have enough time once they were updated to even look
Okay.
at them.
Perfect, so just for voting on just the amendment, or the motion to amend, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so now we're going to go back to just voting on the 4 other ones.
If I could have a motion to approve, excuse me, if I could have a motion, items A through F.
Move it.
Pam, second.
I'll second.
Tom, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so that might have been a little redundant, but now you can make a motion to table.
Now I'd like to make a motion to table item G.
Could I have a
Second.
motion, please?
We just need a second.
I'll second.
Or, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Pam. Tom, second.
Mhm.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is personnel.
For our professional staff recommendations, we have items A through J.
Items A through J, could I have a motion, please? Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then our support staff recommendations begin at K, so K through N, which ends our support staff recommendations.
Move it.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Items K through N.
Move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then item O is our substitute and temporary employee batch.
Could I have a motion for item O, please? Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say it's nice to see some of our own graduates on our list again.
And just, I will be abstaining, just to let it be known.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And abstain.
Abstain.
Abstained, yep. Next is Finance with Nancy Squires.
A is our annual contract with Bolton Partners. That's for our actuarial services for our Medicare retiree, and that is at $1,400. B is a tax certiorari with Lehigh Hansen, and I'll explain a little on this one. It covers 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. In this tax certiorari, the assessed value on the books right now is $2,825,000. The company wanted their assessment reduced to $565,000. And this tax certiorari said going forward, their assessment would be reduced down to $1.9 million for the next 3 years, and the district would have to pay $50,000.
$50,000 was for being taxed too high for those other 3 years that you mentioned,
The
right?
50,000, yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
so it outweighs our
Right.
legal fees, so that's how they.
Yeah, that was a clear letter.
C is the corrective action plan for the extracurricular audit. D is for the extracurricular audit to be approved, and E is for the single audit to be approved.
Items
A
A
through
through E. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move them.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the only discussion, or the only question I had is on the corrective action plan for, are we still working on, I know this is always a problem, this, with the, with these, what do I say, the extracurriculars? And we were always trying to streamline that and to try and to clean it up. But I know it's a problem everywhere, it's not just with us, but how are we, I mean, this is going to move us in that direction.
There was only one finding that I reviewed with the audit committee earlier, and with the one finding, it had to do with the profit and loss statements for the clubs as well as the student treasurer having signed off on it. We have emailed the club auditors and treasurers the audit report, the corrective action plan. We're going to ask for all of their profit and loss statements monthly so that we can review them, and we are accepting email signatures as they've agreed to them from the students, because sometimes it's hard for them, either due to COVID, to come in and sign off on the profit and loss statements. So we have put in mitigating things in order to help out with this finding.
Right, and is that going into some type of, I don't want to say pamphlet or some type of messaging that they're all getting so that it's reinforced?
It goes out to the middle school treasurer and auditor. They have one of each. And then it also goes to the high school treasurer and auditor. And they are the ones who put it out to the clubs. There's also, I'm going to call for, before the end of this year, a training for the ECA club advisors. And just to review what they have. There's also a pamphlet that they get
Right,
that's created by the state.
great, thank you. I know it's difficult, I know it's something that recurs, and like I said, it's not only with us, so I was just wondering what we're due to.
There has never been an ECA audit that has been clean in any district.
We keep on trying.
We keep on trying.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the
Wait,
student.
before we move on, may I? Made a mistake. So on item K, for some reason, I thought my assistant had spoken with Karen about pulling that, and I never circled back to you about it. So Josh Van Gorder's dispatcher resignation, we should have not had that on there, and we could have either asked you to amend the action, so now that we've already voted on it, this will be, we really do need Jim here tonight to go through Robert's rules. So what do you think the best way is to go back and amend K?
Yeah, we're within the time period, and so we
Yeah.
can make a motion to,
I would like to make a motion to amend item K to only have Jessica Richardson on it. Josh Van Gorder is not in that item.
Correct.
I think we first have to nullify our vote?
What do we have to do?
You might have to vote
I think you
to
have to vote to.
nullify
to change.
your vote on item K, or the whole batch, and then I can go back. I just don't know which is the smoothest way to do it.
Move to nullify.
Move to nullify the vote on item K.
Okay. Okay. Need a second?
I'll second.
Have you heard of that one?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now,
So
Okay, next.
now, do we need to do Pam's part next again?
Yes.
Now we need to amend.
Now,
Amend
I would
K.
like to make a motion to amend item K to remove Josh Van Gorder. And it will only have Jessica Richardson on there.
I will second that.
new vote?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And now to re-vote on K with only Jessica Richardson's resignation.
Motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. I believe Robert is rolling in his grave.
Jim will be.
Next on the agenda is the student representative discussion. Zach?
Hi, guys. First couple things that I wanted to bring up. The student question forms, those have been going really well. Got about 5 or so per class so far. A lot of them were about the spectator count, actually, which, as Dr. Calvin said, as the cases go down, the spectator count will go up. That happened, and a lot of students are happy, so we thank you for that. Mr. Lanigan and I went over the rest of the things in the forms, some mildly important, and we didn't find too much more to bring up to the board level. Some we were able to resolve ourselves, and we are going to continue to meet and go over all of the forms from the students along with each of the presidents from each class. Next, Mr. Lanigan wanted me to bring up, you guys remember Rachel's challenge? There's kind of a part 2. It's called the chain reaction event. It's going to be on March 1st, and students who want to participate in a 6-hour intensive interactive training, and it consists of teaching and progressing segments, physical activities, and full group and small group sharing. We're going to want about 80 to 100 students who want to sign up, and about 20 to 25 adults. If any of you guys are interested, you're more than welcome to be one of the staff members. And let's see, just some of the topics that is going to be included in this event are: our words have power to hurt and heal, appropriate touch, take off your mask, be who you are, figuratively, not literally. Yeah, I don't want to get that one confused. You are not alone. We all have shared experiences, and today is your chain reaction moment. So that's coming up for the school. Mr. Lanigan's very excited about that.
Wait, the date of that?
Oh, March 1st. Sorry about that.
And if we are interested in being involved in some way or just even witnessing it, how do we do that?
Yeah, I believe Mr. Lanigan's going to send out a blast to all the students and staff for information, but I think the main way is for the staff to recommend it to the students that they think would benefit most from this. And then if anyone else is interested, they're more than welcome to join. And it's going to be throughout the school day, I believe 8 to 2 p.m. Okay, and then Mr. Lanigan also had one more thing for me to bring up, which is OHS mid-year recognition, which is honoring students for like a mid-year assembly. And we have a lot of different certificates to give out. We have, I believe, 21 different categories to nominate students for, and we're looking for teachers to nominate the students, 2 per class, so 8 per category. And let me list the categories for you. Just some, besides, to reward students besides their academic prowess. We have Critical Thinker Award, Most Creative Writer, I Am Second, Selfless, Always Put Others Ahead of Themselves, Determination, Overcome Face Struggles Out of School, and It Hasn't Stopped Them, World Changer, Sights Set on Big Ideas to Change the World, Creative Genius, Helping Hands, Help Staff with Any Task, Inside and Out, Impressive Character, Please Don't Hack Me, Computer Genius, Diligence, Can't Stop Smiling, Future Inventor, Perseverance, Joan of Arc, Nelson Mandela, Young Person Who Stands Up for What Is Right, Class Philosopher, Thinks 10 Steps Ahead of Everyone Else, Worker Bee, Heart of Gold, Innovations, and Big Sister or Big Brother, Looks Out for Everyone. So we're going to have some staff have some input on that. And February 18th, we're going to have the honorees tallied up. I believe if there was a tie, all students would be given the certificate, and we're nominating for the next couple of days. Okay, the next thing is, actually, there was one item from the surveys, student surveys, that I wanted to bring up. There has been some complaints about the lunch food, so to tackle that, we're bringing up a lunch survey for the students. One of the issues that we talked about, Mr. Lanigan and I, was some of the food is cooked at the middle school and then brought over. So there might be a deal with the transportation in the temperature of the foods during the lunch. So we're going to survey about what kind of foods the student liked best, and maybe veer from the other meals that are not so popular, or something that's more simple that is more enjoyed. And the last thing I have is, I just wanted to mention the student play that's coming up. There's a lot of people working on the tech crew, painting props, getting a lot of things ready to get together. It's coming up in about 2 weeks. And I'm just really excited to see how that comes out, because a lot of people are working very hard. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is items from the board.
I just had a question for Zach. The February 18th event, is that during school? Is that an assembly thing, or is that an evening program?
I did not ask Mr. Lanigan, but hopefully it's right here.
During the day, okay.
Okay, during the day? Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, thank you so much for all the information you bring.
Yeah.
Would there be any items from the board tonight?
Well, of course. So we already kudos and shouted out our transportation department. We're all COVID weary. And at this point, I can just ask our community to please have your patience. Our administrators, our teachers' aides, our bus drivers, our food service, our custodians, our grounds crew, buildings and grounds, they're all working incredibly hard. some of them working incredibly long hours. Just say thank you to them. I say thank you to them. You're appreciated. Please, our community, have patience and appreciate our staff and our faculty, because they're doing everything that they can to keep our kids in school, to keep the athletics going, to keep a musical that's going to go on in 2 weeks. So I know we're all tired, but please, everybody in the community, please have your patience and remember to thank them all, because I sure do. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pam. You always say it the best every week. Are there other items? Tom? You look poised and ready to say something.
I was just going to kind of piggyback on what Pam was saying, because I think we're getting to a good place. So let's not, we're getting to a good place. I think you see the numbers dropping, so let's not stop too early. Let's not, change and say, okay, we can relax. Let's drive it home, because I really believe you see the numbers, you see what's happening, you look in the horizon, you look around the world, and I think we're moving in the right direction. Let's be attentive to it. Let's work as a collective, as the community, as the district as a whole, and we'll get through this. And I really do believe that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, and I think let's be optimistic about it, because I think we're gonna get it.
Heather, I do have something to say. I think we should also thank our superintendent. It's been a tough ride this year, and he came in, and his communication skills are fantastic. His ability to stay centered on these issues without, having emotions in it, is he's steadfast with it. He tries to answer everybody's questions, and I think we should applaud him for that.
Thank you, Linda. Well said.
Yeah, and I just want to make one more if I can, just because I've been remiss before, and I told Heidi, or before Nancy, Carrie, and Karen as well, thank you very much. If we don't say it often, you're greatly appreciated. And this is everyone else, but sometimes we don't say it enough. I saw that earlier in someone's resignation, and I wanted to say it to the transportation department too, and you already did. You're appreciated, and we may not say it often enough, so I'll take the opportunity to say it now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to piggyback off what Linda was saying, just to something we've kind of discussed as a board, but, Dr. Calvin really is very responsive to individuals, to emails, to phone calls, to just about every form of communication that comes in. And one just little, it's not really a change, but one clarification I think as a board that we want to make is, as a board and as our administration leader, we want to be responsive to public questions, 100%. However, what we don't want to do is get into email communications back and forth, especially with individuals, because first off, it's inappropriate, but secondly, if you have that many questions, they really should come to the public, because maybe there's others that have the same question. So if, for instance, one email exchange doesn't answer a question, we will definitely bring those questions to a public forum so that everybody can hear the question and hear the answers. And I've appreciated Dr. Calvin's leadership in that, but I just think that would make a more, not just efficient, but productive manner of answering questions and being responsive to our community. So obviously this doesn't involve matters of a personal nature, but more those administrative questions. So thank you, Dr. Calvin, and I think as a board, we all agree that that's probably the most effective way to move forward.
And I'd just like to add, as a reminder, because I know that Heather had talked about it last year, when community members email board members, we're all not going to email you back. One email, if it's related to board topic, the board president will be the one person to email back. And if it's district topic, Dr. Calvin will be the one to email you back. So we don't want board or community members to look for responses from all the board members. That it's not how we're going to do it. It's one voice. It comes from the president. One voice comes from the superintendent.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, are there other items from anybody? Okay, thank you everyone for your input.
At this time, would the Board of Education like to move to executive session?
I think we
And-
would.
To discuss the
And we-
performance of a particular staff member, yes.
Okay. And would there be a need for a vote after executive session?
No.
Could I have a motion, please? Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session.